Hey everyone, the lesson I'll be teaching is a kindergarten ELA lesson focusing on retelling the story in an ICT classroom with 25 students. One teacher will begin the lesson by showing students a snow globe as they sit on the carpet. The teacher will ask students, what do you know about snowy days? According to Bredekamp, background knowledge begins with concepts and basic knowledge about how the world works, which is crucial for reading comprehension. As the students raise their hand, the other teacher will record students' responses. So just having the teacher write down what students say about what they know about snowy days. Then the other teacher will tell the students that they're going to be reading a story called The Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats. Throughout the story, the teacher will ask some open-ended questions to promote rich conversations and thoughtful understanding of the story. I'm going to especially focus on the beginning, middle, and end of the story. In the text, it explains how different types of questions promote different types of thinking. So I'll make sure to use some open-ended questions that required students to analyze information, and then some more closed-ended questions, which expects the students to recall the facts in the story. Some of the questions I'll ask is, what does Peter do when he wakes up in the morning? This will lead students to identify the beginning of the story. He wakes up and he sees snow outside. So then, as we're reading, we're going to have the students identify the beginning, middle, and end of the story using this graphic organizer. Also, throughout the story, I'll have this anchor chart posted, the BME chart, which tells students exactly what we're looking for when we say beginning of the story. Who are the characters? What is the setting? In the middle, what is happening to the characters? And then the end, how did the characters solve the problem? So posting an anchor chart will remind students of what we're looking for, and then this graphic organizer will help them organize their thoughts, and we'll put post-its to identify the beginning, middle, and end as a class. After we're done with the whole group activity on the carpet, then I'm going to split the students into 3 groups, the circle, square, and triangle group. And we'll rotate through 3 centers. On page 297 in the text, Bredekamp explains that centers give students the opportunity to plan, initiate, and make choices and practice their developing skills. I chose to do centers for the guided practice because in smaller groups it makes it easier for the teachers to really observe the students and really find out their strengths and areas for improvement. One of the centers will be teacher-led, and students will read a text on their level. So I have 2 different stories based on the student's level, what they might read. So the triangle and square group will probably read this book. It's a level C, and it's called We Make a Snowman. And then the one of the lower groups, the circle group, will read A Cold Day, which is a level B. Throughout the story, the teacher is going to provide post-it notes so the students can mark off the beginning, middle, and end. So they'll have 3 post-it notes. And then as they are done, they can use their post-it notes on this organizer to just kind of put what the beginning, what the middle, and what the end is. And then they will get this graphic organizer to kind of either write down the events that happen in the beginning, middle, or end, or they can draw a picture, or both, depending on the level of the students in the group. The second center will be teacher-led, and it will include an activity where students will write high-frequency words and sight words in fake snow made from cornstarch, baking soda, and water in a bin. And the students will pair off into partners, but there will be the other teacher at that group kind of observing with a checklist and kind of just checking off whether or not the student was able to correctly spell the sight words. So one partner will say the sight word, and then the other partner will write it in the fake snow. So words like melt or snow, and then some other sight words mixed in there, like up and in. So that's the second center. And then the third center is where an independent center where students will be creating their own snow globe scene, and then we'll be writing one sentence below showing or saying what they see in their snow globe. And in the Bredekamp text, it talks about how art experiences really allow children to convey their ideas, feelings, and knowledge in visual forms. So kind of all three centers kind of give students the opportunity to show their strengths, and the teachers will be observing them to see what they need to improve on. One of the assessment tools that I will be using is, like I mentioned before, the observation checklist in the second center where students are writing the sight words. This will just be a simple student name and then the sight words that they're being asked to spell, and the teacher will either give them a check that they spelled it correctly or not. And then from that checklist, if there's a group of students that all kind of spelt the same group of words incorrectly, then the teacher can use that checklist to create further groups in the future. And then the other assessment tool that will be used at the center where students are reading the book on their level is a retelling checklist. So student name and then beginning, middle, and end, and just checking off whether the student was able to identify beginning, middle, and end of the text. And then a little section for notes where the teacher can kind of say why or why not the student correctly identified those parts of the story. This data will also help the students be put into small groups based on their level. If there's a group of students that all got the beginning of the story incorrect, then the teacher can maybe identify those students and put them in a group that they only focus on what happened in the beginning of the story, referring back to this, and maybe just focusing on beginning. Who are the characters? What is the setting? And doing a few activities with that going forward. So those two assessment tools will kind of help teachers to create small groups based on students' levels, based on their strengths and things that they need to improve on. Okay, that's the end of my lesson, so I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.